Thanks for joining this moment. I mean, really, it means a lot to me that you would. It does. Because we're in my office, you'll sometimes hear sounds in the background, but I also get to point out things that I like. For example, the book I won at our family Rob Your Neighbor Christmas game. We no longer exchange gifts because we have enough and we'd rather give that money to those who could use it. But we're very competitive. So I'm happy that I won the book, the worst alphabet book ever. And it's titled P is for pterodactyl. Anyway, there's more of that. The second thing before the homily. Last weekend we announced the results of All Things New. As you probably heard, most Sacred Heart Parish is blessed to be one of those where we remain a standalone parish, and where both priests will stay here. That is a blessing beyond measure, and I am grateful. And I'll continue to do what I do, which is pretty much pouring 95% of my hours here, but 5% writing books and speaking on the road. I do have to figure out a way to start to work less than the 80, 85 hour weeks I do regularly. That's not even in times of crises, because I'm getting old. And my days will come when I need to fade away completely. But for now, I'm so glad I'm here. And I'm glad you're a part of this as well. So we at Most Sacred Heart don't take for granted that this is a blessing to us, and that we're all in this together. And there's many places with great heartache right now and a lot of transition, all of which we hope yields great good in the end. I will say that after I made the announcement on Saturday night, I just felt like crying, just for whatever combination of emotions that was. So anyway, those are the two little background thoughts. So here's the homily for this weekend called Trinity Sunday. An elderly couple goes to their friend's house for dinner, and afterwards the wives leave and go to the other room, and the two guys are still at the table. And one says to his buddy, we ate at this great restaurant last week. I mean, you should try it. His buddy goes, oh, what's the name? The guy goes, he couldn't think of it. He goes, wait, what's the name of that flower you give to someone you love? It's often red and has thorns. And his friend says, you mean a rose? He goes, yeah, that's it. He turns to the kitchen and yells, hey, Rose, what's the name of that restaurant we went to last weekend? Okay, so names matter. What we name things, how we address ourselves, our God, and others, names matter. And it's nice to know each other's names. It can be a good step towards relationship. Yet, on this Trinity Sunday, a day when we celebrate in part how we name God as Father, Son, and Spirit, I suggest that names are also dangerous, and sometimes extremely dangerous. Yes, names are helpful when we meet someone because they give us, a sense of the person. Hi, I'm Benjamin. I'm an electrician. Or, hi, I'm Myrtle. I'm married to Timothy, and we're from Ohio. It's all great. But those names only give us a tiny glimpse into the person. We would be foolish, of course, to think, well, now we understand who that person is standing in front of us. Now, when I was brand new here, I didn't hardly know anybody. And I heard they had this little concerts down on Main Street in Eureka, and I thought it would be good if I showed my face, but it's kind of awkward, I'd been here maybe one weekend or two, but I went down there to just kind of show up, and as I was making my way, a couple of our kids saw me and ran up to say hello, which was really comforting. And then they could say, oh, he brought me over to mom or dad. But anyway, as I was leaving, another kid came up and I heard one say to her friend, that was my priest. And I liked that. It is true that that's what I am in my life, in every aspect of my life. But it does not define me or the fullness of who I am. I am also the son of Fred and Mary Kempf. I'm also a brother to Fred and Dan and Bill and Walt and Mary. I'm a nephew, a cousin, a friend, a child of God. My point is, the person I am is a mystery, so much more complex than any one name could ever capture. And so are you. And any name, any title falls so short. I mean, it's true of the categories we use to describe each other, right? Oh, that's the plumber, or oh, she's my daughter's teacher, or oh, they're the family from Russia. Yes, they are, and they are so much more than that. They are each persons who weep, have histories, hopes, heartaches, dreams, family members, worries. We know so little of who they really are. And one of the dangers is that once we give a person a category or name, that it allows us to somehow kind of like dismiss them. Oh, she's just that clerk behind the counter. Really? Is she not a person who maybe just had some great heartache, or who maybe is ecstatic that he just got engaged, or is terrified as they wait for the results from a blood workup or a CT scan? Any name and any category falls so short. And at its worst, putting names in categories can lead to dehumanization, which allows us to ignore, be mean to, or even wage war against others. We've got to learn to have an awe and a reverence and respect before each other. We've also got to do that with God. On this Trinity Sunday, we name God as Father, Son, and Spirit, and rightly so. The temptation, in part, is to think, oh good, got that, that's decided, that's God. And then we dismiss, ignore, miss somehow the awesomeness of God, the ever unfolding mystery of the humility and incredible goodness of God, of the one who is all love. God is always so much more than our words, our names, our categories, our titles. Anthony de Mello, the Jesuit, once said, as soon as we learn the name of a bird, we no longer see the bird. And one of the dangers of naming God as Trinity, or of naming God in any way, is then that we no longer see God. We miss the wonders to be unfolded of the mystery that is God. So I have a concrete idea. Perhaps we would sometimes do well to try different names for God. Like, how do you normally address God? Maybe you say, Heavenly Father, or Dear God, or whatever. It's all fine. But what might it break open in you or in me if we sometimes used different names for God? We could use biblical names and then pause to see what services, like friend of sinners, Holy One, Comforter, then offer our prayer, Servant God, here I am, or however the prayer would go from there. Or we could use descriptive names. If we always call God our Father, our dear Father, or however, what if, as Pope John Paul mentioned, we sometimes called God Mother, Mother God, or you who are all goodness, or you, the presence in whom I live right now, in me and around me, are giver of my life, or my dear truest friend. Or maybe we intentionally used no names. There is something that can be broken up in us when we address God differently than the ways we normally do. So, these days I think we might do well to be a bit more aware of how we introduce ourselves one to another, the names we use, and also the names we use for God. Because we can just become too shallow and too convinced. And then we miss the great journey, the adventure available for those that see, who see that every name is just a beginning, just a tiny glimpse into the miracle and mystery of who that person really is. A tiny glimpse into the miracle and mystery of who our God really is.